On the second day of the official campaign trail, all three leading presidential contenders, Lee Jae-myung of the DP, Kim Moon-soo of the PPP, and Lee Jun-suk of the Reform Party, were in the conservative-leaning southeastern part of the country. U.S. stock markets were quick to respond to the news of a major rollback on tariffs between Washington and Beijing, with all three major indices sharply rising. A symbol of Korea's peace mission over 2 centuries ago has made it to its destination in Japan in time for the celebration of Korea Day at the Osaka Expo. This year's arrival is all the more symbolic, as the two neighbors celebrate 60 years of their official friendship. It's May 13th, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. We're now counting down precisely 3 weeks to the June 3rd presidential election. The Liberal camp's candidate Lee Jae-myung traveled to the conservative-leaning southeastern part of the country, saying what matters is people's everyday lives rather than ideologies. Our correspondent Shin Ha-young reports.
National unity was a key topic that Democratic Party presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung shared during his second day of campaigning for the presidency. Lee kicked off Tuesday in Gumi, the birthplace of former conservative President Park Chung-hee, known both for his autocratic rule and having led the country's rapid economic development. Lee's visit to Gumi was part of his campaign through regions known as traditional conservative strongholds, including Gyeongsangbuk-do Province, Daegu, and Ulsan. The DP said Lee's visit to this key industrial area shows how strong his intention is to bring the country together and promote balanced regional growth. Lee laid out his vision to make Gumi a key engine driving South Korea's economy. He also acknowledged Park's contributions to the country's industrialization and promised to be a capable leader. Lee said the country's future matters more than political size or ideology.
What matters most is people's everyday lives, not left or right, red or blue, or where you're from. It doesn't matter if a policy came from Park Chung-hee or Kim Dae-jun. If it works, we use it. If not, we don't. Ideology isn't as important as the lives of our people and the future of this country.
In the afternoon, Lee visited Pohang, the nation's traditional powerhouse for steel, seeking voter support. During his speech, Lee Jae-myung urged people to come together to overcome the hardships that followed the declaration of martial law. He also emphasized national unity regardless of political affiliation. Lee wrapped up his Tuesday campaign in Ulsan, where he focused on strategies for industrial growth and supply chain restructuring. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News, Pohang.
The conservative camp's candidate Kim Moon-soo was also in the southeast, continuing his rally there for the second day. This as he apparently walks on a tightrope, as former President Yoon Suk-yeol and his martial law continue to cast a shadow over the campaign. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon explains.
People Power Party candidate Kim Moon-soo spent a second straight day campaigning in the Gyeongsang-do region Tuesday, pledging to revive an area that's seen a clear population decline. He wrapped up the day's events at a local market in Busan, the nation's second-largest city, promising more jobs and better infrastructure.
If I become the president, I will build an express train system here and make the surrounding cities all within 30 minutes of each other. Busan, Ulsan, and Gyeongsangnam-do Province will become one giant and the best global city that can be on a par with the capital.
While cities like Busan here are traditionally viewed as a conservative stronghold, Kim enters the race at a disadvantage on impeachment of its former president and the turmoil between Kim and the leadership over Kim's candidacy. That's likely why he started his first extended stay here in this region to solidify his supporter base. Before Busan, he was also in the neighboring city of Ulsan, a major industrial city as well. For this city, he pledged a multicultural complex.
The city has requested a large-scale cultural complex, estimated cost around 500 billion won. If I'm elected president, I'll make sure it doesn't take long. I'll allocate a special budget of that amount to Ulsan as soon as I take office.
But Kim's visit to the southeast doesn't end there. On Wednesday, he's expected to campaign in smaller cities like Jinju and Sacheon, continuing efforts to shore up support. At the same time, how to deal with issues regarding former President Yoon Suk-yeol and his martial law declaration continues to cast a shadow over the campaign. In a televised interview Monday, Kim offered his first public apology for the incident and its aftermath to the nation. The apology also gave attention to calls from some to expel Yoon from the party. Kim responded to this on Tuesday morning, saying whether the president leaves the party or not is up to him. It's not right for the party to decide that for him. With some party loyalists still backing Yoon, Kim must walk a fine line, keeping the base intact while reaching out to undecided voters, many of whom remain critical of the martial law attempt. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News, Busan.
Staying on the campaign trail, foreign party candidate Lee Jae-myung was at the conservative stronghold of Daegu. Starting with a rally in the city's commercial center, Lee then sat down for lunch with students at a university cafeteria before heading for talks with medical professionals. The 40-year-old candidate declared himself the future of Daegu, emphasizing his youth and intentions to interact directly with all those involved. He also found fault with the Conservative Party presidential hopeful for failing to oust the impeached former president from the party. Similarly, he accused the Liberal Party candidate of abusing legislative power to attack the former administration while inciting political division. In other news, a massive fire broke out this morning at a logistics warehouse in Icheon City, Gyeonggi-do Province, and was brought under control by 4 p.m. Authorities say the blaze, which started on the 3rd floor, did not spread to lower levels. No injuries or fatalities have been reported, and all 178 people inside the building were evacuated. The 80,000 square meter warehouse stored various items, including paper products and lithium-ion batteries, which made firefighting efforts more challenging. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. U.S. President Donald Trump has hailed recent tariff talks with China, claiming that Beijing will fully open its market to American businesses. In the meantime, stock markets were the first to respond to a major rollback on tariffs. Lee Soo-jin has the details.
President Donald Trump on Monday hailed the temporary de-escalation of trade tensions with China as a total reset that will open China's market to American companies.
In addition, yesterday we achieved a total reset with China after productive talks in Geneva, and they've agreed to open China, fully open China. And I think it's going to be fantastic for China. I think it's going to be fantastic for us.
He also told reporters in the Oval Office that he may speak to Chinese President Xi Jinping later this week. The U.S. and China reached a trade agreement that slashes U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods to 30% from 145% and lowers Chinese tariffs on U.S. imports to 10% from 125%, a decision that cuts tariffs from both nations by 115 percentage points. But sector-specific tariffs on automobiles, aluminum, and steel are still in place, and China will be subject to tariffs on pharmaceuticals that Trump previously said would arrive shortly. The agreement followed 2 days of discussions held in Switzerland between senior-level officials from both nations.
Neither side wants a decoupling. We do want trade. We want more balanced trade, and I think that both sides are committed to achieving that.
The two sides held in-depth exchanges on trade and economic issues of their respective concern. The atmosphere of the meeting was candid, in-depth, and constructive.
The deal, which will be in place by May 14, will be effective for 90 days and sets up a framework for further talks between the two countries. U.S. stocks responded positively to the news, with the Dow Jones surging to close at 2.81%. The S&P 500 closed nearly 3.3% up, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq closed 4.35% compared to the previous trading day. This comes as investors reacted favorably to the unexpected progress in talks between the U.S. and China, sparking a rally in major tech stocks such as Nvidia, Amazon, and Meta. Companies like Best Buy and Dell Technologies, which rely heavily on Chinese manufacturing, also saw strong gains. 이수진, Arirang News.
Ceasefire talks are set to begin between Russia and Ukraine later this week in Turkey. And the American leader may join the much-anticipated meeting. Park Go-nu has more.
As Russia and Ukraine gear up for their upcoming ceasefire negotiations in Istanbul later this week, U.S. President Donald Trump said he might travel to Turkey as well. Speaking to reporters at the White House on Monday, Trump raised the prospects of taking part in the talks in the hope of putting an end to the killing on the battlefields.
I was thinking about flying over. I don't know where I'm going to be on Thursday. I've got so many meetings. But I was thinking about actually flying over there. There's a possibility of it, I guess, if I think things can happen. But we got to get it done. We got to save 5,000 lives a week. 5,000 lives is really more than that. It's worse than that.
President Trump will be visiting Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar this week. Amid prospects of Trump taking part in the talks in Istanbul, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Monday that he wanted the U.S. president to join the peace talks. In a post on X, Zelensky said that everyone in Ukraine wants President Trump to take part in the peace talks in Turkey, calling it a good idea. However, the Kremlin remains silent about whether Russian President Vladimir Putin will take part in the talks this week. Park Go-nu, Arirang News.
In the Middle East, the last surviving American hostage was set free by Hamas just one day ahead of Trump's diplomatic tour to the region. This comes as Israel continues ramping up its military actions in Gaza. Choi Ji-hee has the latest.
On Monday local time, Eden Alexander, a 21-year-old Israeli-American from New Jersey, was released by Hamas. He had been captured during the October 7, 2023 attacks while serving in the Israeli military. The announcement of the decision was made on Sunday night by Hamas after holding days of talks with the United States. Israel had been bypassed during the negotiations. Alexander's release is the first since the resumed military operations by Israel, ending a previous ceasefire. The handover occurred in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, where Alexander was transferred to the Red Cross before being handed over. Arriving at an Israeli military base, he reunited with his family. President Donald Trump praised the decision, which comes a day before he visits the Middle East on Tuesday, with scheduled stops in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, as a step toward peace. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the occasion a very emotional moment and credited the release to Israel's military pressure and political influence from the U.S. He reaffirmed his commitment to securing the release of the remaining hostages, with plans to continue intensifying military actions in Gaza. Following Alexander's release, still in captivity in Gaza are 58 other hostages, and at least 20 of them are believed to be alive. Alexander was the last U.S. citizen held by Hamas thought to be still alive. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
At the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV engaged with the media for the first time as pontiff, addressing freedom of the press, as well as the role of the media to promote peace. Park Hyo-bin covers his comments.
Amid thunderous applause, Pope Leo XIV, the 267th pontiff, made his entrance.
Buongiorno. Good morning.
He started his first press conference at the Vatican on Monday with a light-hearted joke.
They say when they clap at the beginning, it doesn't matter much. If you're still awake at the end and you still want to applaud, thank you very much.
In his address to more than 1,000 journalists from around the world, the Pope emphasized the way the media communicates is key to promoting peace.
Dobbiamo dire no alla guerra delle parole, delle immagini. Dobbiamo respingere il paradigma della guerra.
He warned against using language that fuels hatred and emphasized the need to amplify the voices of those who cannot speak for themselves.
Disarmiamo le parole e contribuiremo a disarmare la terra.
He also called for the release of imprisoned journalists, underscoring the importance of press freedom. Pope Leo addressed the rise of artificial intelligence, urging its responsible and ethical use for the benefit of all humanity.
Penso in particolare all'intelligenza artificiale col suo potenziale immenso, che richiede però responsabilità e discernimento per orientare gli strumenti al bene di tutti, così che possano produrre benefici per l'umanità.
After speaking for about 10 minutes, Pope Leo stepped down from the podium to personally greet and engage with journalists. Following his call for an end to the wars in Ukraine and Gaza last Sunday, Pope Leo has made peace a central theme of the start of his papacy. Park Hyubin, Arirang News.
Staying in Europe, Korean conductor Chung Myung-whun will take the podium of the renowned Italian opera house La Scala next year to become its first Asian musical director in history. Lee Jae-myung covers this upcoming event.
On Monday, Italy's world-renowned opera house, Teatro alla Scala, announced on its official website the appointment of a new music director. According to reports, 72-year-old Korean conductor Chung Myung-whun was unanimously chosen for the role by the opera house's board of directors in a meeting on the same day. Inaugurated in 1778, this is the first time in La Scala's 247-year history that an Asian person will hold the position. Chung will also be just the second non-Italian to take up the role.
This isn't just about being appointed as a music director of an opera house. First and foremost, it marks a personal milestone for the 72-year-old Chung Myung-whun, the peak of his career. Secondly, as the first Asian music director of La Scala, it elevates the global status of Asian, and especially Korean, classical music. It's something that can inspire and give hope to the next generation of Korean conductors.
Chung's musical journey began as a pianist, but he stepped onto the conductor's podium in 1978 when he was named associate conductor of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. In the 1980s, he entered the European scene, serving as music director of Germany's Saarbrücken Radio Symphony Orchestra and later of the Paris Opera. Chung's ties to La Scala run deep. Since 1989, Chung has led 9 opera productions across 84 performances and conducted 141 concerts at La Scala, which is more than any other conductor who did not hold the title of music director. According to AP News, the Opera House praised his close and productive relationship with its orchestra, choir, and philharmonic, stating that no other non-director has contributed more to enhancing La Scala's global reputation. Chung will succeed Ricardo Schai with his official term beginning late next year and running through early 2030. Jae-myung, Arirang News.
Over in Japan, people there welcomed a special guest as a symbol of Korea's peace mission has arrived in Osaka for the first time in over 260 years. And this year, it's all the more special. Our correspondent Song Yoo-jin explains why.
It's a landmark voyage brought back to life more than 2 centuries later. The reconstructed Joseon Tongsinsa ship, once used to carry Korean envoys to Japan from the 17th to 19th centuries, has now reached its final destination, Osaka. While the recreated vessel also sailed to Japan in recent years, this is the first time it has anchored in Osaka since the 11th Tongsinsa mission from 1763 to 64. This year's arrival is all the more symbolic as it coincides with the 60th anniversary of normalized diplomatic ties between South Korea and Japan.
Korea and Japan can't move away from each other. We're very close geographically and historically. This ship isn't just a symbolic restoration. Just as it opened a sailing route, I hope it also opens a path for both nations to grow together in the future.
The Tongshinsa mission has been a symbol of mutual respect and cultural exchange beyond borders. Recreating that history today will play an important role in helping Korea and Japan learn from their friendly past and build a future-focused relationship.
This journey wouldn't have been possible without this team, who designed, built, and sailed the vessel modeled after the original Tongshinsa blueprints.
We began planning this reconstruction back in 2015, and now, nearly a decade later, we've reached Osaka. We are deeply grateful to everyone who helped make it happen. Our institute will continue restoring and sailing traditional Korean vessels to preserve this legacy on the water.
But the celebration didn't end at the port. So as Tuesday, May 13th, marked the National Day of Korea, here at the Expo 2025 Osaka Kansai, the reenacted Joseon Tongshinsa prepares something really special here. The envoy procession marched through the expo grounds just as the original envoys did when they set foot in Japan. Drawing large crowds, the parade echoed across the venue, spotlighting the centuries-old message of peace-building and cultural diplomacy. As for the Tongshinsa ship, now docked in Osaka, it will offer an onboard exhibition on the Goodwill mission before its journey back home. 송진, Arirang News, Osaka.
Many places had a real taste of early summer heat today. Temperatures in the capital will go up even higher tomorrow, hovering way above the season norms, feeling more like early June. And how about the sunshine? It was hard to walk around without sun protective items. Intense sunlight continues nationwide, so we hope you manage to stay cool and protect yourself from this strong sunshine. The morning starts off similar to slightly higher temperatures tomorrow at 15 degrees Celsius here in the capital, Busan, Daegu at 14 degrees. While highs in the eastern regions were nearing 30 degrees today, and it will be a couple of degrees lower than that on Wednesday, but most parts will still see highs in the mid to upper 20s tomorrow. Heat relief is coming with rain in the forecast on Thursday in central regions, the southern coast and Jeju, but the amount will not be that much this time. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.